I know a ton of you guys are tired of hearing coronavirus constantly being talked about on the news and on social media and pretty much everywhere else at this point because it's more than likely the only thing that is being talked about, and hearing about the same thing over and over again can get very boring. Plus, who wants to hear about coronavirus? That's a lot of this is like bad news, negative shit, like more cases, more deaths, etc., etc. But today, you guys are in luck because we actually got some pretty good news today that we're going to be talking about. That is, thankfully, not coronavirus related. And that is that the all-new iPhone SE Gen 2 has just been announced by Apple. So today, we're going to be talking about everything you need to know about the all-new iPhone SE 2 that was just announced today, from the design to the specs to the price and all the features that are on this new phone. So anyway, let's get right into it. So the iPhone SE Gen 2 or iPhone SE 2, second generation iPhone SE, or the iPhone SE 2020, whichever name floats your boat. We've been hearing rumors about this phone for almost 2 years now, since 2018. We've heard rumors that it would have the same design as the original first generation iPhone SE with an iPhone 10-like display. We also heard rumors that it was going to have a Touch ID embedded into the display, things like that. It might have Face ID. It was going to have micro LED. No one really knew for sure what the next generation iPhone SE was going to look like and what features it might have. We really didn't know anything about this phone, but now that Apple has announced this phone in their latest press release, they finally answered all our questions about the new iPhone SE. So the first thing we're going to talk about with the iPhone SE is the design. Looking at the design of the iPhone SE on their website right now, it appears to have the same exact design as the iPhone 8. Well, with some subtle changes. It's not exactly like a copy-paste of the iPhone 8. There are some subtle differences, like the Apple logo has been moved to the center. There is no iPhone text on the back, things like that. The white variation of the iPhones, which I'm going to get to the colors later on, the white variation of the iPhone SE has a black front instead of white bezels, so thank you, Apple. Hats off to you for not including ugly white bezels. And that's basically the design of the iPhone SE. It really isn't that different to the iPhone 8. It has a glass back. I don't know if it's frosted glass. I'm probably going to have to take a look at an Apple store to see if it's frosted glass, but it appears to be the same glossiness that we see on the iPhone 11. So it appears it's not frosted glass. It might be the glossy that we have in the iPhone 11. Again, I really don't know for sure. I'm going to have to see it in person to actually confirm whether the glass is frosted or not. More than likely, it's not frosted because looking at their website, again, the glass does appear glossy on the pictures. But as for the design, it is the exact same dimensions, the exact same chassis, the exact same everything as the iPhone 8, which basically means that all your cases like the iPhone 8, 7, 6S, 6, all your old iPhone cases that fit the iPhone 6 will still be able to fit the iPhone SE Gen 2, so no need to buy new cases. The iPhone SE Gen 2 also comes in 3 colors, black, white, and product red. No gold color, just like what the iPhone 8 has. And when you compare the colors to the iPhone 8, some of the colors, particularly the black and the white, are subtly different from the iPhone 8. Like, for example, the black is slightly darker than the space gray on the iPhone 8, and the white is slightly lighter than the silver on the iPhone 8. So there are some subtle differences with the black and the white colors than the space gray and the silver that we have on the iPhone 8. The new iPhone SE also has the same 4.7-inch Retina HD display that is found on the iPhone 8, so same resolution, same pixel density, same nits and brightness, so it's technically the same exact display found on the iPhone 8. And considering that it does have the same design and the same display as the iPhone 8 with 4.7 inches, I wish Apple would have included the 5.5-inch variation of the iPhone SE, like an iPhone SE Plus with 2 cameras. I don't know why they didn't include it. I think it was just to make the iPhone more affordable, but Apple could easily have done like $100 more iPhone SE Plus with 2 cameras and the 5.5-inch HD screen, but again, to reduce reduce costs. It was actually rumored, or it is rumored, that there will be a 5.5 inch variation of the iPhone SE, the iPhone SE Plus, that is, coming in somewhere in June or July. Again, this is a rumor, not confirmed until Apple actually confirms it themselves. So again, we're gonna have to wait to see if that's true or not. But as of now, the iPhone SE only comes in one display size, and that display size is 4.7 inches. No 5.5 inch variant. Now, the internals of the iPhone SE is where the biggest change happens. Now, if you look at the iPhone SE from the outside, it looks exactly like the iPhone 8, has the same display. But if you take a look at the insides, this is where the big change happens. The iPhone SE has the same exact processor that is found on the iPhone 11 series. So it has the same A13 chip that is found in the iPhone 11, the iPhone 11 Pro, and the iPhone 11 Pro Max, which means it will be just as powerful as the iPhone 11 series. I'm curious to see the Geekbench scores and the Antutu scores for the iPhone SE once it officially launches, so that way I can see how it compares to the iPhone 11. Even though it does have the same exact chip as the iPhone 11, so it really won't be that different, but still, I'm actually pretty curious to see what the iPhone SE is going to be like with the Geekbench scores and the Antutu scores. Because, you know, as a computer geek, I do like doing Geekbench scores. I like doing Antutu and all that. Like, when I first buy a brand new phone, that's like the first apps I install are Geekbench and Antutu just to see how my phone performs. I don't know, not everyone is like that. I'm basically one of the few people who are interested in that stuff, so no one really isn't going to need Geekbench or Antutu. But still, it's always pretty interesting to see the scores for the processor of your phone. Now, more than likely, the iPhone SE will probably have around 3 gigs of RAM. Apple really wasn't clear as to how much RAM the phone actually has, so we're actually going to have to wait until the launch of the iPhone SE to see how much RAM the iPhone SE really does have. But my guess is that at the minimum or at the maximum, it would probably have like around 3 gigs of RAM at least. Now, as for the camera of the iPhone SE, the new iPhone SE has a 12 megapixel single lens camera, which I believe is the same one that is found on the iPhone XR. It's not really clear what generation phone it's actually from, but in my opinion, I think it's from the iPhone XR because in order to keep the phone as affordable as possible, it'd actually be a little bit weird to take the iPhone 11's single lens camera and put it in that phone. So I would assume it's the same as the iPhone XR just to keep costs low. Apple does claim that it is one of the best single lens cameras that has ever been developed in a smartphone. Again, we're gonna have to put that to the test, have people have it in their hands in order to actually see how well the camera performs. But again, the phone has a single lens 12 megapixel camera. It does support portrait mode thanks to the neural engine that is found on the A13, and it doesn't have night mode. The iPhone SE does not support the long exposure features that is found on the iPhone 11 series, which I would assume is just a cost-saving measure to try to keep the phone as affordable as possible. But overall, the camera of the iPhone SE does sound pretty decent for its price. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles that the iPhone 11 series has, such as the long exposure, the night mode, but it does, however, have a f1.8 aperture, so it will still do pretty good in low light environments. Again, we're gonna have to put that to the test to see how it performs in low light environments, but even though it doesn't have the night mode, it does have a f1.8 aperture. So I would see the iPhone SE's camera as between the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11. Again, doesn't have all the bells and whistles that the iPhone 11 has, but it does have a little bit of additional features of the iPhone XR's camera that the iPhone XR doesn't have. So again, overall for the camera for the iPhone SE, it does sound pretty decent for its own price point. It does have Smart HDR. Again, this is a feature that is found on the iPhone 11 series, but not on the XR. And this is what I mean by it is between the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11 in some way for the Smart HDR. It does still shoot 4K at 60 frames per second, just like the iPhone 8 series, so no change to that. There's also no change to the front-facing camera of the iPhone SE. The iPhone SE still sports the same 7 megapixel f2.2 aperture front-facing camera that is found on the iPhone 8, which I could understand because Apple doesn't want this to be like a flagship phone. Apple's trying to keep the price low to keep this phone as an entry model type phone for the iPhone SE, so I do understand why they would keep the design the same and keep the front-facing camera the same while trying to upgrade the internals to make sure that it's on par with the other iPhones. So I do understand why the front-facing camera is the same, which I'm not too disappointed. I mean, it does sound fair. The iPhone SE does have Touch ID instead of Face ID. Again, because of the home button, it does have Touch ID. It also has the same home button as the iPhone 7 and 8 series with the Force Touch and the haptic feedback. So it has the same home button as the iPhone 7. It also has the same second generation Touch ID fingerprint scanner found on the iPhone 6s. And comparing that to Face ID, in my opinion, I don't really see that difference of a speed when you compare them side to side. Quite frankly, I don't really see a difference when it comes to speed. But my personal opinion, I do prefer the Face ID on my iPhone 11 Pro compared to the Touch ID sensor on the other phones. I do think facial recognition is a little bit better in some way than a fingerprint scanner. There's a lot more data points. Well, statistically speaking, a facial scanner is a lot better. So I know just to reduce costs, you have to include a fingerprint scanner instead of a face scanner. Again, totally understandable. But everyone's different. Whichever one you prefer, if you want to go back to the fingerprint scanner because you miss it so much, then the iPhone SE is definitely the phone for you. And if you're one of those people who like fingerprint scanners better, I hate to say this, but okay, boomer. Anyway, as for the water and dust resistance for the iPhone SE has an IP67 rating, which means it can be submerged in water up to 1 meter for 30 minutes. Now, I don't advise you, submerging your iPhone SE into water because IP67 is not as good as an IP68 rating like on the iPhone 11 series. You don't have to worry if you're using it in the rain or using it in the shower or using it to wash your hands because IP67, it's basically able to survive that. But I still don't advise you submerging it into water. I'm able to use my iPhone 11 Pro in the pool or in a hot tub because it's an IP68 rating, which means it can go more than a meter underwater for 30 minutes. In this case, for the iPhone 11 Pro, is 4 meters. And that's why I'm pretty much comfortable using my iPhone 11 Pro when I use it in the pool or in the hot tub. And it's still going strong, no problems whatsoever. But for an IP67 rated device such as the iPhone SE, the new iPhone SE that we're talking about right now, or the iPhone 7 or the iPhone 8 series, I don't advise submerging that into water, using it in the pool. And if you want to be able to use it in the pool, make sure you're extra cautious with it because liquid damage on a device can be, in a good portion of the time, permanent and unfixable. And that means that the device has to be replaced completely. So just don't bring your iPhone SE to the pool. Don't submerge your iPhone SE. Even though it is IP67, 1 meter for 30 minutes, I still don't advise you submerging the phone into water. Now, as of battery life, Apple claims that the iPhone SE lets you watch up to 13 hours of video on a single charge, and surprisingly, it actually comes with an 18-watt fast charger, which that is like one of the most surprising things, because I know Apple wants to make this phone like cheap and affordable, but when you're really looking at the specs, looking at the battery specs, it says on their website that it comes with an 18-watt fast charger. I would expect it to come with like a 5-watt charging brick. I would not expect it to come with a USB-C 18-watt fast charger, which definitely is like one of the more surprising because, again, the 18-watt is reserved for like the iPhone 11 Pro series. Despite the fact that the iPhone SE is supposed to be a cheaper iPhone, it actually comes with an 18-watt fast charger adapter, which means it can go up to 0 to 50% in less than 30 minutes. So for a phone that is supposedly very cheap, a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing and hearing about the iPhone SE makes this a pretty amazing phone. It's actually exceeding some expectations, even though it does have an iPhone 8 design, it has Touch ID, all of that. It's not supposed to be like a high-end smartphone, but for a phone that is not meant to be flagship, the specs of this thing so far sound pretty good for a phone with that price. So some of the other features that the iPhone SE have include the True Tone display, the same True Tone display technology that is found on the iPhone 8. The iPhone SE also has haptic touch instead of 3D touch, unlike the iPhone 8, which has a pressure-sensitive screen, which is 3D touch. the iPhone SE has haptic touch, which is basically the same as 3D Touch, the same 3D Touch features and all. You get the same thing as what 3D Touch has, but you don't get a pressure-sensitive screen, unlike the iPhone 8, which has a pressure-sensitive screen. So that's why they included haptic touch, because there's no pressure-sensitive screen on the iPhone SE. There's support for augmented reality, obviously. Apple is heavily invested in AR technology. There is stereo audio recording, so it records video in stereo to make the sound as engaging as the picture. That's what the website claims. There's also faster Wi-Fi and cellular data, Wi-Fi 6 support, and gigabit class LTE. No 5G on the iPhone SE. That is reserved on the iPhone that is coming later in September. There's audio sharing support, which means you can have, if you have a girlfriend or you have a boyfriend and they have AirPods too, you can actually share audio and watch Netflix together. So you can do that. There's dual SIM support, so just like on the iPhone 11 series, there's dual SIM support, so you can have two phone numbers. If you're traveling to Europe or traveling to anywhere around the world and you want to have a second SIM card to be able to, without overcharging for data roaming, you can get a second phone number and a second service from a different country, which I think is pretty awesome, and especially if you're a person who travels a lot. I don't travel a lot, so it really doesn't apply to me, but for the people who travel a lot, I think this is definitely a game changer for you, is the dual SIM support. So anyway, guys, that basically wraps it up for the iPhone SE. Now it's time for my overall opinion on the iPhone SE, if I recommend it or not. So here's my opinion. For a person who has an Android phone, you definitely need to get this phone. For any Android user who wants an iPhone, this thing is definitely for you. This is a steal. I mean, for a phone that cost, and the price of this phone, by the way, is $400. For a $400 phone, this basically has almost all the features that you would get on an iPhone 11, minus the notched display with the Face ID, minus the night mode, minus the advanced front-facing camera, but who really needs that if you really just want a phone? I mean, this is definitely the perfect phone for anyone who wants to get an iPhone. This is perfect. The iPhone SE also comes in 3 flavors, 64, 128, and 256. Again, all in really great prices. I mean, again, this is definitely a phone I recommend for anyone who has an Android phone. And I know there are some of my friends who have Android phones who don't even have iPhones yet. So if you want an iPhone, this is definitely the phone for you. The iPhone SE, perfect. Perfect for anyone who wants an iPhone. The perfect price, the perfect specs. I mean, this is definitely perfect for anyone who wants to get an iPhone. No, really, it is. But for a person like me, who already knows how to use an iPhone, I would more inch towards the iPhone 11 series, like the 11, 11 Pro, 11 Pro Max. But for anyone who wants an iPhone but can't really afford one, this is the iPhone you should definitely be getting. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, and if you're new around here, be sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications. And I would like to hear your thoughts about the iPhone SE. What do you think about the new iPhone SE Gen 2 that was announced? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you want to get it? Do you need to get it? I would like to hear all your thoughts in the comments below. Anyway, also be sure to follow me on all my social medias. Links are in the description below. Anyway, that pretty much wraps up the iPhone SE video that I have. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the comments. Again, if you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like. And if you're new, subscribe, turn on notifications. And until then, take care, talk soon, peace.